And good evening, everyone. ESS Empire State Sports proudly presents the Wise Guy Sports Talk Show. Your host tonight, Joey Ream, Dave Bartlett, myself, Pete Goslar, and our special guest, Potsdam High School AD Mark Wilson. Mark, welcome to the program.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, Marcus, I get to run things tonight, I guess. Normally, when I'm sitting on here with you, you're in charge. Talking AD stuff. I suppose the place to start, because the whole reason this show came about was due to COVID, and every guest we've had, it's how is COVID affecting you personally? How's it affecting Potsdam sports? How's it affecting Section 10 sports? And we can get your general overview on all those things before we jump into other stuff.
Well, sure. Thanks. Personally, I got to play a lot of golf this year.
Nothing wrong with that.
Game's not great. I said going back to work really hurt it. But so personally, found a lot of stuff to do that I hadn't had much time to do. So that wasn't bad. But I really feel for the kids and the parents and the communities and everything they've had to go through. We all know how important sports is to all of us and to our communities, and to have that kind of ripped away was very difficult. But thankfully we're back starting now. Got a couple sports running. Everything seems to be going pretty well. It's nice seeing the kids out at practice, having a great time, and they aren't even really concerned with the outcomes of their games and meets. Just being out there is what it's all about. A lot of that goes through the hard work of the school administration, of the coaches, and really of the teachers. They've been on the front line of this, trying to make it so that the kids would be able to return and have a place to get together and socialize. And the athletics is kind of just the cherry on top.
So I got to ask right off the bat, because I don't have it. How's cross country going? I mean, obviously everybody's got soccer, but I don't have cross country. How is that going with masks and everything?
What a beautiful day yesterday. We had our first meet. Of course, we had to shutter for 2 weeks at the high school because we had a couple of COVID cases, and the Department of Health determined it'd be best for us to shutter for 2 weeks. So we got a little late start on practicing. So this Thursday, Friday was the first days that we were able to compete. And yesterday we had a home meet, and it couldn't have gone any better. Kids are awesome. They want to participate. They'll do whatever it takes. And the nice thing with cross country is they only have to wear masks while they're around other people before the meets. During the meet, once they get out and they're able to be more than 12 feet away, they can take their mask. A lot of them just pull it down under their chin, and they kind of cruise around. And when they finish, they put it back up over their face. And, you really don't see the difference other than the size of our meets. Yesterday, we had a meet with Tupper Lake, and, you see races with 3 modified kids and 8 varsity kids, and it's just typically you'd have a bigger turnout than that of racers.
Normally, is cross country just school versus school, or they're usually a little bigger where you have 3 schools, 4 schools?
Yes, we do dual meets, we do tri meets, and then they have league meets, interdivisional meets, and the sectional meets. So 3 times a year, all the schools come together and race. And with the times this year, one of our emphasis was to keep the meets as small as possible. Number one, because of the limit on spectators. Number 2 is it's much easier to manage when you only have 2 teams. So the only time that we're going to have larger meets this year is the final meet at Malone. It would have been our sectional meet. It's not technically going to be a sectional meet, although they will race based on their class.
What's a spectator situation like at a cross country meet? I'm really proving my lack of knowledge of cross country since I don't have it. But I mean, what's it like? Is it spaced out amongst the whole course? Is it one general area?
It kind of depends on what the course looks like. Some courses, it's just not feasible to have spectators walking out and about the course, just because it's through the woods. And so a lot of people they stand at the start line, and then the finish line is pretty much in the same spot. And so they watch them leave, and then they wait for them to come back. We typically race on Munter Trail at Clarkson University behind Walker Arena. And we're not able to get on that this year. So we're back racing at the school, and our spectators could watch 3/4 of the race from our bleachers. If they got high enough in the bleachers at our field, they could see the runners for 3/4 of the race. So it was actually pretty good. We had the start and finish right on our turf and track facility.
Is the length the same with every race? You try to keep it the same length, and what is it?
Yeah, it's 5K. 5K for the varsity. So everybody keeps it as close to that as possible. Our modifieds ran yesterday. It was like 1.25 miles. So a little bit shorter, but it can be. Our fastest runner yesterday for the boys ran it in 17 minutes. So they can run it pretty fast.
Obviously. 17 minutes. I might get 2 holes in 17 minutes. Maybe. There's a par 3 there.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, obviously, we are glad that we've got something going on in the fall to give something to the kids. So, obviously the next question is, I'm sure Pete and Dave are chomping at the bit to ask this, but where are you at with optimism for something in the winter? Personally, I think we're going to get something, but obviously you got a little more, you're up the food chain a little bit higher than I am, might have a little more knowledge than I do, but my gut tells me we're going to get something in some regard. What's your take?
So in the governor's press conference earlier this past week, he was asked a question about winter sports, and he stated that they were currently working on some further guidance for winter sports. A little bit pleased that the New Jersey High School Athletic Association announced that they were going to start winter sports on December 3rd, and they could begin games on December 21st. I think when our neighbors do stuff like that, it definitely helps us. One of my little bit of skepticism is the hot spots that we're getting around the state, and is that going to work against having winter sports? But then you hear the governor talking about regionalization and making decisions based on that. So as with everything, I wouldn't have thought that we'd be back in school as long as we've been in school. So I don't know. I'm optimistic. I think that we're going to have something before January 1st, but I don't think it'll be a lot before January 1st.
Now, initially, tell me if I'm wrong, Mark, maybe Joey too. Initially, he said he wouldn't make a decision until after November 30th. Am I correct on that, or no? Or so is that still what you're anticipating, or?
The sense is that he will give us something before November 30th. It might not be what we want to hear, and it might be as vague as what we receive for the fall. But the sense is that he'll give us something, and hopefully, winter sports are tough because I can see where they're talking hockey. Is there going to be a lot of contact in hockey? I mean, if you have a face shield and you have a protective bubble, or you're wearing a mask, you've got gloves on, what's the chances of something? But a sport like wrestling, where there's that contact, and how are they going to wear masks? And I mean, so I think it could depend by sport also.
Yeah. I know our big sport obviously is basketball. We live and breathe it. So I'm kind of curious how they're going to do this. And of course it draws a lot of crowds too. High, participation from the spectators. So I really don't know how that's going to go. And if they're going to have any guidelines, they're going to leave it up to you guys again, like they did before.
Well, luckily basketball is a non-contact sport, so you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so our coach is actually going to start open gyms this week, and he's basically going to have four athletes in the gym at a time, all at separate baskets with their own ball, and they'll get a half an hour at a time, and then he'll rotate them out and bring in 4 others with their own ball, and they'll get their time. So that, unfortunately, that's what practice is going to look like until we get guidance saying that there can be a little bit more physical contact and sharing of equipment.
Yeah, and I think yesterday I heard his talk yesterday, and that's when I became like, you know what, we're gonna have a season of some sort, especially because he's really starting to break it down to this regionalization block by block. I mean, so I don't. My gut's saying that that's telling me probably state playoffs might be out of the question, because obviously a school can shut down just like that. We've seen it already. It's already happened to you, where it could probably get really difficult to try to get a full schedule in and then have playoffs. I mean, it could be, but I don't see why we couldn't give it a shot in some form or fashion. Now, whether or not that's going to include fans, because we're more of an enclosed space, if we left it to 2 spectators per athlete, obviously basketball benches are a lot small. Most teams are lucky to carry 10 to 12 kids. So maybe it's possible. But, when I heard him talk yesterday, that's when I began to think, you know what, I think we're going to have a season of some sort of fashion. I don't know when it'll start and all that, but I think we'll have one.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I'm hoping, for those kids that strive and participate at a higher level, that we're able to have some type of state sectional and state playoffs. We need six sections participating in order to hold the state playoff. So hopefully that will happen. Will it be tough if we have to push to January 1st? If people are looking to have that fall 2 season, which is where football and volleyball and for us girls swimming, where that's going to fall in and start March 1st, if we need to have our winter sports done by March 1st, that's going to be pretty difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So the timing and the tightness of everything makes it difficult for me to think that we're going to be able to have any type of state regional playoffs.
Yeah, you're almost going to have to be playing almost every night. In order to get a decent season schedule in, but of course there's always that anticipation that somebody's going to get sick, and then their schools, it's almost going to, Joey had mentioned this in a previous show, that it's going to be one of those things, can you guys play tonight, sort of thing. And well, it's going to be hard to get the word out to people, what's going on there.
Yeah, and with basketball, if you're trying to play your boys and girls home and away and getting that many games in, you can probably do it. Hockey is tough because you only have so much rink time available, and you only have certain nights that you can use the rinks. So that would be real tough to get a full season in. And at the section level, we've already discussed some alternate plans if we do get pushed to January 1st for starting games. Something that we'll be able to manage and hopefully get a full competitive season in.
I know there's been a lot of talk with busing and budgets. So Is there going to be a little leniency as far as parents bringing their kid to and from the games now? Like, unlike they were before, I mean, you could always sign your kid out, but you never were able to bring them to a game. So I'm just trying to figure out if that's going to be a sectional thing or a high school thing or how that's going to go, Mark.
Right. So it's really always been the schools would provide transportation, and that's more of a district policy. The regulations really only state that you have to provide it. It doesn't say that you have to have everybody ride, but basically most schools do just for liability purposes. And more than that, the coaches want the players to be together. Like I've heard Joey talk about AAU and it turning into more of that mindset where you're waiting for parents to get the kids to the games. But we have that. We have a waiver this year that parents can fill out. And that basically says they're going to transport their kids to and from games. And it helps with buses in our capacity. We have, 20, 28 or so cross-country runners. We're going to have enough that are able to be transported by their parents. So we can only send one bus, or we'll only have to send one bus instead of the two that we would have needed if everybody was riding the bus.
Well, and I'm assuming, again, now I'm thinking of my own school, but I've been thinking, one of the great things about how Carl did things is for the most part, I've only got one bus leaving a day for soccer, but, in basketball, hockey season, that can change, but they should be leaving later in the day and it shouldn't be too bad. We probably could have more than one team on the road come wintertime if we get to that point. But Pete mentioned it, kind of glossed over it real quick. But the one thing that I'm going to be concerned about, right now we're just thinking in the moment. But I mean, budgets are going to become a major issue here, starting pretty soon. Are you getting the sense of being worried, especially NISFA? We're losing out on state championships. Those are money makers for us, put money in our coffers and use it where we need it. But, I got to assume that school budgets are going to become a major issue for sports here pretty soon.
Yeah, definitely. We've saved, obviously, with not having a spring sports season and having a limited fall season. What you save on officials and on coaches, salaries and transportation, that all helps. Unfortunately, that money's already been used to pay for other stuff that's been needed during this pandemic. So eventually, the buck's going to have to stop somewhere. Thankfully, the governor said that he wasn't going to withhold the current payment. But they're going to revisit that again in the coming couple months to see whether or not they're going to withhold anything from the next payment that's due. I feel that if we stay more local, just play the games that we need to play a local schedule, just give the kids something to do rather than nothing at all. That's probably the best for everybody. Typically we'd play teams definitely out of the area 5-6 times a year. I don't see that happening. I don't think there's any way that we're going to do that. So play a local schedule. That's definitely going to help. And then next year's budget, I think that's where it's really gonna come out is, and we'll start working on that process here in the next 2 months. We'll start getting our figures together for that, and that's where it could really be tight.
Yeah, I know. I'm dreading those conversations. I know they're coming though, but yeah, it's gonna be a problem. And then another issue is officials. We might be lucky enough to have some sort of basketball season, but 24 schools in Section 10 with everybody still trying to play. Now we have older officials. Some have backed out of the soccer season, and I know that we're having issues trying to get every game filled for soccer. I'm assuming we're going to have that same problem in basketball. I've talked to a couple of officials already, and they've told me some guys that aren't coming back just due to health and safety concerns. So I got to assume we'll have some issues with officials in the wintertime.
Yeah, definitely. And this was an issue before this pandemic started. The average age of the officials nationwide is, in the 60s, and that's tough to maintain. But yet with this happening, and especially in the fall with the start time of a lot of the games, made it difficult for everybody to be available. And think about it, this is without any college events happening, and we lose officials constantly to officiate at the college level. So we're already experiencing that shortness. What I figure is we'll be looking at utilizing the weekends, much like we are now. One of the things that's tough is we're still seeing where schools and teams are trying to move games off of weekends to the weekdays. And I know a lot of coaches and parents, they don't want to interrupt their weekend with those games. But there may be a time where we just say, you have to have your games on a weekend. You have to play games so that we know that we have officials available. But we could see modified games with one official.
Yeah. Well, and of course, I haven't had a modified game yet. I start those this week. So, but so far, with the varsity games, no issues. Two officials. We're going to see a lot of the same officials. If we got anybody watching tonight, when we release this show, you probably will notice, hey, I've had that official 4 times. Part of that, Mark, you can explain it more than I can, but I know it has to do with just trying to keep people local, trying to keep the travel down, trying to keep the costs and expenses down for us as school districts paying these officials.
Yeah, definitely. With the shortage of officials that we have right now, we're having to send officials, to travel a little bit farther maybe than they had in the past. But you're going to see the same officials because of the start time. So when we're having mostly 4:00 starts, and officials are working, there's many of them that can only get so far for a game. You have an official from Messina, they might be able to get only to Brazier by 3:45 for a 4:00 start. So that's a big part that's playing into that. And in the grand scheme of things, that's not a huge concern for this year. The key is let's get the kids out, let them play, let them be socialized, let them get some type of normal, whatever that is now, and just let them be.
Well, one of the things that's coming in handy for me, I mean, you've had it now for a little while, Mark, but it's really coming in handy for me is having a lighted field, having a turf field. I don't know how the other schools are going to do it once we change the clocks. I have no idea. And it's really, I've had this conversation in-house. It's frustrating to me, but I get it. I don't know how we're going to pull it off, but it's frustrating to me that I'm going to have kids jump on a bus to go play to be lucky to play 40 minutes of soccer, because once November 1st hits, the sun sets by 4:45. So I feel lucky that at least when the teams come to our place, hey, you'll be able to get the whole thing in. It's such a pleasure to have a facility like that, and you have one too.
Yeah, definitely. We're fortunate that we're able to play all of our modified JV and varsity boys and girls soccer games on our turf field this year. Just the way we were able to work the schedule. With if the boys are home, the girls are away. That definitely helped, but that makes it so that we're going to be able to play our games in full, all the time. Typically, that's why you see sectionals played on on turf fields with lights, because they're, they can start the games later, and you don't have to worry about that. I could see some schools deciding that they're going to go with 3:00 starts, much like they would in the sectionals, as they get to that time. And they might have to think about those weekend days, moving some games where they can. And thankfully for the modified and the JV, they're playing a reduced schedule. So, hopefully they will be done with their season by the time that happens. But yeah, the turf definitely lends itself to giving more leeway and freedom in what you can do.
Now,
Well,
has
go
either
ahead, Pete. Go ahead.
has either of your schools thought about doing back-to-back games under the lights? I know it's kind of just it's going to be difficult on weeknights, of course, because there's always the kids going back to school the next day thing. But in the weekends, the weekend thing seems to be working well for most schools right now. Have you guys talked about that, doing back-to-back games under lights and going later into the night?
So we currently only have one game that's scheduled to be played back to back, and it's against OFA. Has to do with our senior night. It'll be our girls' senior night that night, and our goalie Taylor Benda, her father Al is the boys' soccer coach, and with the schedule this year of having the boys play at the same time as the girls at opposite sites, he wouldn't be able to get to watch his daughter play any games during her senior season. So we worked this out with OFA, and thanks to them for agreeing to that, so that he could be there for his daughter's senior night. But yeah, that's the only time. And I think a lot of that had to do with the worry of how much do you need to sanitize everything after one team is on the field and one group of fans is in the bleachers before the next group comes in.
Well, I know the week that we changed the clocks, I've got 3 or 4 nights of back-to-backers. Just couldn't avoid it. It's either play half the game on our grass field, or if I'm going to move the modified or JV down to our turf. So we'll have a few back-to-backers, but I did put the word out. I haven't heard from my fellow ADs. I hope they're thinking ahead, but I made the offer. Like, we hate to come all the way out there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes of soccer. If you want to play it here or move it to the weekends, I hope that's what our fellow ADs are thinking of doing. Cause I hate to, number one, it just seems like we're in crunch budget time as it is. It just seems like a waste of money to me to go all the way out there to play 20, 25 minutes of soccer. That's my own feeling. But if that's the best we can do, I suppose it's better than nothing also.
Here this weekend at Town of Webb, they had 2 soccer games on Saturday and 2 on Sunday today here at our field.
Yeah.
So. That's a great alternative. And I know we have one Sunday varsity game scheduled with our boys and girls with Malone. And I think it's going to be great. I mean, hopefully the weather is awesome. And we've only had one Sunday game in the past, and it was a baseball game a couple years ago, when they had done away with the 7 consecutive day rule, and we played Canton in baseball, and it was an awesome atmosphere, awesome event. Probably some of the most amount of spectators that we've had, just with people looking for something to do on a Sunday afternoon. Unfortunately, in the fall, you're dealing with hunting season, you're dealing with football that's going on. So who knows what you'll get for spectators? But when you can only have 2 spectators per participant, it's not like you're going to get a lot there anyway.
Yeah, and the problem with this time of year, as well as you guys know, is that if you don't play during the weekdays and you only limit it to weekends, well, we're pushing off another week and another week. And I hate to say it, cold weather is here. So, and that terrible 4-letter word snow is coming. So I guess that's something that has to be around your schedule or in your minds also.
Yeah, so our varsities played their first game on Friday, and they're getting 12 games in by November the 12th. So they're basically playing 4 games a week for the rest of the season. And that's what it took in order to get those games in, with us having to start practice a couple weeks later than everybody else, and that's what it took. And our kids they'll enjoy it. They'll be tired, but they will have an enjoyable season.
Well, and the last thing I'm going to bring up, Mark, I'm not going to jump ahead to fall 2 and spring. We'll save that for a later conversation. But the last thing I'm going to talk about before I ask you about your pathway and how you became AD at Potsdam, but grades just came out at St. Lawrence Central, impacted us greatly on our modified soccer team. And one of the good things is that you just feel like there's a little more flexibility. Like, what can we do to save these teams? Whereas, I have a JV team, which we weren't going to have. The only reason we saved that JV team, we found 6 swimmers to give it a shot. And then grades come out, kills our modified team. We only have 7 able bodies. And so I went and talked to that JV team. Unbelievable the help that they're going to give us. And I told them, we will try to get you as many of your games as we can, but I'm going to need some of you freshmen to come down and fill out this modified, so we're not playing 7-on-7. At least get it to 9-on-9, 10-on-10. So some of the flexibility things that we're doing as a school on our own, or as athletic directors together, because I know we've had the discussion of, hey, if we show up with 10, do you mind playing 10-on-10? So, to try to make it a little bit more fair. So these are kind of the things that we've been going through for these couple of weeks.
Well, and our grades just came out also, and the principal and myself made a determination that since our kids were just getting back into playing, and at this point we don't want to take some positives away from them, a positive environment, positive atmosphere, that we were going to forego any of the probation and eligible penalties for this 5 weeks. And basically let them continue participating fully, and hopefully, being back with the team and being back with a coach who's going to push them to make sure that they're getting their work done, and meeting with me and meeting with the counselors, that we can get them to get their grades up, by the end of the 10 weeks. And that's really what we're looking for right now. So just the flexibility of everybody understanding that this time is tough. We don't know how the remote learning is affecting the students' learning, if that's the reason that they're having issues. So giving them a little bit more time to put their best foot forward is really what we're looking to do. But these kids are resilient. They're looking for ways to be active, ways to improve. And I don't know how they do it. I would be so upset if I couldn't be in school, couldn't have been in school every day with my friends. Even the kids that are coming to school, with their masks on, 6 feet away, and just not the normal school experience. It's just so tough. I don't know how they do it.
All right, Mark, we spent a solid half hour on COVID. That's way more than I wanted to. Give you a little chance. Give us your pathway. Let us know how you ended up, how you got there as athletic director at Potsdam, where you went to school, where you went to high school, where you went to college, and anything else you want to add along the way. Some coaches that might have impacted you, sports that you loved and that you played, and have at it.
Well, sure. Live in Parrishville, born and raised in Parrishville. Went to Parrishville Hopkinton, played soccer, basketball, and baseball. Soccer for Jerry Aiken, basketball for the illustrious Brian Harmer, and then baseball for Harold Fippen. And great time. Enjoyed every part about high school athletics. Evan Harper was my phys ed teacher, and he was, just somebody that I looked up to and decided that phys ed was a path that I'd like to take. Went to SUNY Brockport, played baseball there for 4 years. Had a pretty good time. Graduated from there, came back to Parrishville, was subbing in the Parrishville-Potsdam area, coached modified baseball and JV soccer at Parrishville. And then life took me to Syracuse. And I did a little subbing and coaching for a short term down there. And I ended up at Lafayette High School, just south of Syracuse. And I was a phys ed teacher and coach there for 10 years. Coached a little bit of everything, softball, soccer, at the girls level, basketball, varsity girls basketball, varsity boys baseball. So I did a little bit of everything. Started on my administrative work, saw the position open up in Potsdam for Dean of Students and Athletic Director. Was fortunate enough to get that job and be hired by Pat Brady in Potsdam. And from there on, it's been a whirlwind. A couple weeks, I'll have been there 11 years because I started after the fall season in 2009, and the time's really flown. And when you have the kind of and the amount of sports that are going on, your days just fly. And you're always doing something, whether it's hockey, basketball, swimming, volleyball. It's just, there's always something going on. And I guess that was the biggest thing, for the 6 months that we didn't have any sports. When you're so used to it, and then it's gone, you kind of don't know what to do with yourself.
We understand that point. We really do. Yeah, we were just getting geared up we talk about this all the time. We were all just getting geared up to go down march down to states. And I get depressed just talking about it, that it was gone just that quick. But we make the annual trip, and we were happy to have it back in Glens Falls again. And then all of a sudden, poof, right in the middle we're actually right in the start of playoffs. So, almost the middle of playoffs, but so we understand all that, but quite a trip you've got going there, Mark, going from PH all the way down to Syracuse and Lafayette. But you said you did some officiating too, or did I hear that in there?
The only time I've ever officiated was some basketball in college, some intramural basketball, and then all those times that we haven't had refs show up for games, doing a soccer game here or there. But no, I really, if an AD has time to go officiate, then I wonder really what they've got going on.
Yeah. Joey, you got time to officiate?
AAU tournament occasionally I might pitch in a little bit. There's no freaking way I'm reffing a high school sponsored game. No way, wouldn't do it. Probably because I'd lose my job, because in an AAU I don't care if they kick me out for what I say as a ref. So but you're right, Mark. Time does fly. I mean, I'm on year 6, and I just took this on as a 1 year at a job time, and here we are in year 6 of this. And like you said, it flies by because there's something going on every day. And for those of us who are really organized, I mean, you're always planning ahead. So you're always looking into the future. So it's like, geez, it's always something going on. That's why this 6-month stretch, like you said, you played so much golf. I played more golf than I've ever played in my life because I had nothing to do, nothing to plan for. So, now that we are back to work, it's like, whew, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, you're just finishing up a capital project, and you look at the facility that you've got out of that, and we're just ramping up talks about what our next project's going to be. So what time that's going to take, and the planning of replacing the turf and track and fields and what else is going to be in there athletic wise. It's going to be busy. It's going to just add to it.
Did you come to our place last year for football? I can't remember. I think you.
Yes, I believe we did.
So the next time you're able to come over, one of the cool things is the rest of the lighting has been done on our campus, and it's like, wow, it's starting to feel like a college campus. It looks really nice with all the lighting, and it's all motion detected lighting. So they pops on, you walk under it, it's got to pop on. It's really nice. Now, last year I'm trying to do football games with the only lighting I had was the lighting on the football field. I mean, you got kids running around all over the place. You don't know what's going on. So it's a lot better now.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that wasn't a phase one part of that lighting.
Yeah, I know. Well, we learned as soon as we had the first football game, I'm like, we got major problems because as soon as it gets dark, they could be doing whatever they want. We couldn't find them. So.
Yeah, well, and you're smart because you've gone to that 6 o'clock start for your football games, and that definitely helps. Sometimes you wish we got those 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon games back. I'm sure.
I like the 6 o'clock and Friday night. Yeah, Friday night. Our boys didn't kick off till 5 o'clock because Chateauguay was late getting here, which is fine because we had the lights. But boy, our field at sunset it's really nice. I took some photos. I'm like, it is really pretty. And I'm like, this is right about the time we'd have been playing a football game. It would have been our home football game Friday night against Watertown. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, boy, it would have been a really nice night for football. It's unfortunate. And I'm worried about it come springtime, because even if it's allowed, I don't know how the hell we're going to start March 1st for football. But here's hoping that happens, and we'll worry about that, just like with everything else that we've been dealing with, Mark, on a day-by-day basis. And in March, it'll be here before you know it, but it's a long ways away yet. So hopefully we'll have an idea of what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take a miracle, and we're going to need to have a spring like we had last year to even have a chance at that. I'm sure that we could probably figure something out because we have the turf fields. But those schools that don't have that, how are they going to get on their fields? I just don't see that happening. Talking to our coach, Jim Kirka, he would be happy if they could get 2 or 3 games in, and just take that. But then on the flip side of that, if you're going until April 19th, you're figuring in spring break. And if there's any chance that people can travel at all during spring break, they're going to. So, so that would take basically 2 sets of Fridays right out at that point. And then you want to be done for that April 19th so that they can start spring sports. And I think our fall coaches that will be in that fall 2 season understand that the spring athletes missed out last year. So they really, really believe that they should have their season this year coming up, and that's where the focus should be. We'll just see. We're hoping and see what happens. Unfortunately, a lot of the decisions that are made by the higher ups at the state level aren't made with north of the thruway in mind.
Yeah, that is true. So, well, Mark, we want to thank you for coming on. I know it's been a while trying to get you on here, and we finally got there. So we can't thank you enough for doing it, taking some time out, talking a little bit, one of our more topical shows, to be able to really cover what's going on in the COVID world as athletic directors, what you and I are going through. And we can't thank you enough for coming on. We appreciate it. And we wish you the best of luck with everything at Potsdam. And hopefully you were on my basketball schedule. Maybe we can still play. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully. I would love to, get in a league schedule and maybe a couple non-leaguers in there with some local teams, and give them as much of a chance to play. I'd like to thank you guys, having something like this to go on and to watch and to listen to the guests that you've had on and the memories that they bring back. And, being able to see Kisser on there after they won the Stanley Cup, that was pretty cool. You know, but it's nice that you guys are doing this and you know, giving a chance for people to speak out about what's going on.
Well, I want to thanks a lot, Mark, for coming on. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get you back on, and we'll pick your brain for spring sports. How's that?
Sounds good, Pete. Anytime.
Sounds great. I want to thank everybody for watching ESS Empire State Sports tonight, the Wise Guys Sports Talk Show. Your host, Dave Bartlett, Joey Real, myself, Pete Goslaw, and our special guest, Mark Wilson. I want to thank everybody for watching. Stay safe, everybody. Good night.